in the flow, so we know that the flow should be clockwise. So as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing these clouds move up and around.
Okay.
So if I know that it's clockwise, then where does it start? And it's going to be over here, see? And the way the ridge works, it has different sectors. The west sector is going to be more the moist, unstable sector, whereas to the east, you can see is dry and stable. So.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up a real world example real quick.
Because I try to look at your maps, but half the time I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Okay.
Well, that's good feedback. That's good
Here,
feedback.
let me. So this is today, and what we look for is turning. You know, if you can kind of look even here, the difference between this yellow, red, and gray, it's going this way. So that's the turning. And like a good example is this is a little trough. And right where those clouds do dissipate, that is where the ridge is, because that's the strongest subsidence. That's where the downward vertical motion is the strongest. So these clouds are going, the air here is being lifted, which is making all these clouds and frankly showers. And the air here, about where this yellow arrow is going downwards, which is where the ridge is. Yep. So in this case, there's a big ridge here, but the only real indication of that is this turning here that we see. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll put it back.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about then is we're going to start talking about this summer. What things can we look at to forecast how weak or how strong the monsoon is going to be for this summer? So one of the first things we look at is the Arctic oscillation. If it's positive, that means that you have a very, very tight ring of winds up and around the Arctic air mass. And if it's negative, that means that flow in and around the Arctic area is looser, and you get these dips coming down and in. And we kind of saw that in April. That was responsible for some of the stuff that we had going on with the cutoff lows. For those of you that were reading all our posts at that time, we were talking about the cutoff lows, that Arctic air was slipping in down into the Gulf of Alaska, and those cold pools were generating these areas of low pressure. So during the summer though, we want that tropical ridge to set up. So it's more of a southern feature. If the Arctic air mass is still active at that time, it's going to break down that tropical ridge. So we want it to be positive during the summer. We don't want to be seeing outbreaks of cold air during the summer. And so far right now, at this time, in the recent 6 weeks, it has been more positive. So that's good. See the smiley face? So the next thing we look at is what is happening with La Nina, and and that's what we were basically this past winter was La Nina, and then also neutral when we talk about the El Nino Southern Oscillation. This chart here is showing off the South American coast and then the Pacific Islands there, a sector called 3.4. And it lines up kind of well with the California area there. And scientists have found that measuring those tropical waters, the water temperatures there, align up well with the weather that's going to happen here in North America. So they track this very closely. In June of 2024 last year, it was very warm, and so that was more of an El Nino sort of situation. And as we got into January of 2025, we went into more of a La Nina situation, which accounted for part of our abysmal winter. And now the waters have warmed back up, but anything that's within a half a degree of zero, so a positive half a degree or a negative half a degree, is considered neutral. So your half a degree positive is up here, and your negative is right down and through here. So right now, we're neutral, or Lanada. So, and in looking at the forecast, this is all done in probabilities. So right now, for the summertime, there's a probability anywhere from 75% down to about 55% that we're gonna be more neutral. Neutral is in the gray, La Nina is in the blue, and El Nino's in the red. And for those of you that are always interested in the winter time, so this is like 4 months, so January, August, September, in the middle of the monsoon season there. And getting out to December, January, February of next winter, it's really a coin toss as to which way we will be. Scientists have found what's happening with those ocean currents from April into May and into June really tell a better story as to what's going to be happening next winter. So normally as we get into June, we'll see a drastic change in this product. And hopefully we do, so we can kind of get a clue of what's happening for next winter. Because right now, it's a coin toss as to what's going to happen. Tropical cyclone activity is very important in forecasting the monsoon as to the moisture that's going to get in here. We don't, of course, not going to be impacted actually by hurricanes, not going to slam into here, but that subtropical moisture that gets wrapped up and feeds into the monsoon can really make a difference. Who remembers last summer? Who came to visit us in June?
It was a tropical system.
Yeah.
Alberto.
Yeah, Alberto came to visit us in June, and then all his moisture got trapped in here for about 3 weeks, and our monsoon kicked off awesome. So the difference between the Pacific and the Atlantic storms is that the Atlantic is a much more shallow ocean, so it is much warmer, and also it has the Gulf currents that are warmer as well. So your Atlantic is going to start out much sooner with the tropical storm activity as opposed to the deeper, colder Pacific that's getting fed by the Aleutian current, which is a cold current. So it's not really until September that we start to see the Pacific sort of storms. As of right now, NOAA is the official forecast, and they don't come out with their tropical storm forecast till like right at the 1st of June, which is the start date for hurricane season. So this is actually the Colorado State University forecast for tropical storms. And even though they're a lot closer to the Pacific, they only do an Atlantic hurricane forecast. And they're saying that activity is going to be higher this year. On average, we see about 14 tropical storms in the Atlantic, and this year we should see up to 17. So that's good. So why is it good? With the hurricanes, if you have a lot of winds, as you do with more of an El Nino sort of system, they tend to shear off those storms. So this year we're more neutral, so you should not really have winds that are breaking down the hurricanes when they're first starting to generate. So for us and for a monsoon season, that's a good thing. And if you look at historical data for July and August, this is saying the average July through August precipitation down to 75% or up to 125% during periods of La Nina, El Nino, and then neutral. How were we for moisture during monsoon season? Well, this year we're forecasting for neutral activity. And you see all these dots up and through here are above average monsoon moisture. So if we look at just that, it's saying that we're going to have above average monsoon moisture. Also, we can look at the snowpack. If we have low snowpack, as we all know and seen this year, the snowfields disappear quicker, so your surface temperatures start warming up faster. Well, we know for that subtropical ridge to set up, we want things to be a little bit warmer. So even though I'd rather be dealing with snow fields into July. This year, we're not. We have a low snowpack. So both National Weather Service in Arizona and National Weather Service in New Mexico have done studies, and this is the data from those studies, saying that if you have a low snowpack, and they look specifically at the snowpack data from April, and we were at about 65% on the 1st of April for our snowpack, much lower in May. And this up along the bottom is how much rainfall you have as far as percentage wise. So it's saying that with the low snowpack that we would have above average moisture for the monsoon. And then this is the study from Arizona, I believe. No, both New Mexico and Arizona, looking at percentage wise and then the month. So starting out looking at things here, and if you have a low snowpack dry winter as opposed to a wet winter, how are things going to end up by the middle of summer? And it is also showing that if you have a dry winter, you're going to have a wet monsoon. So again, we get a smiley face. And then looking at historical data here in Pagosa. In recent history, we have had 2 summers where the snowpack in April was below average, and that we also were a neutral INSO. And the summer of 2013 for the monsoon, we had 11.6 inches. Remember, our average is 6.25 inches. So that's almost double. And then in 2014, we were neutral, and we only had 91% snowpack in April, and it was 9.18 inches. So when you think about last summer, that was good, right? And that was like 8-point-something inches. So based on this little correlation, we should have above average monsoon. So this is a chart that I did specifically for Pagosa using snowpack data up at Wolf Creek. And it does not really show anything definitive. There's really only 3 dots that show up in the low spring snowpack and good monsoon data. With the red line is the snowpack of 65% in April. So now we're going to look at model data for all these different